Welcome to Fixable, a podcast from TED. I'm your host, Dan Morris. I'm a company builder and leadership coach.
And I'm your co-host, Frances Fry. I'm a Harvard Business School professor, and I'm Anne's wife.
Today, we are getting after a major source of pain inside organizations, which are meetings and offsites and retreats that are a bad use of everyone's time.
We are off the frontier for meetings, and we're going to try to get on the frontier.
Yes, that's our goal today. We're going to talk to the preeminent thinker on this topic, master fixer, Priya Parker. Priya is, of course, the author of the very excellent best-selling book, The Art of Gathering, How We Meet and Why It Matters. She is a highly sought-after facilitator, speaker, and strategic advisor. Her ideas have had incredible impact in and beyond the worlds of business and organizations. Priya also started her career in conflict resolution and participated in peace processes in Southern Africa, India, and the Middle East.
The real deal.
Yes. In short, she is the real deal. So, Frances, we're going to very sadly say goodbye to you and now bring in Priya. Priya Parker, welcome to Fixable.
Thank you so much for having me.
Our goal today is to fix the problem of unproductive gatherings in the workplace. So bad team meetings, bad all-hands meetings, bad retreats and offsites. We are starting this conversation from a place of frustration because we still observe a relatively high tolerance inside organizations for treating each other's time and talent casually in the form of poorly planned and unproductive gatherings.
You are speaking my language.
We have all been having this conversation for a long time. It got accelerated when we were all trying to do this remotely. Where are we in this?
Well before the pandemic hit, I remember reading a study that said that the number one cause of employee rage was the term, is useless meetings. Too many meetings and useless meetings.
I feel that.
The way we meet is on autopilot, not well planned, not thought through. People throw meetings at problems instead of thinking. I think in part because of a false notion of inclusivity, or in part because of a confused notion of participation. Everything has just bled out to just become like, oh, a meeting can solve that. We're not sure what to do. Let's have a meeting.
Okay, so that's still where we are in the story. We have named the problem.
Yes.
But your work, the premise of your work is optimism that we can make progress quite quickly from naming the problem to making our lives better by gathering more skillfully. But how much more time do you think the average workplace needs to spend solving this problem?
I might reframe it not as how much do they spend their time solving this problem. It's a reallocation of where they're currently spending their time. So 90% of success for any meeting happens before anyone shows up. And so a lot of people often say, wow, this is so much work. And it's like, it's not so much work. It's a different type of work, which is it's thinking before just sending out a calendar hold, right? It's actually creating norms and a set of skills of asking, what is the desired outcome of this meeting? It's helping people learn what a purpose actually is.
So the framing of we're spending more time, we're actually getting a whole bunch of time back and particularly productive time.
It's actually sort of a complicated question, which is what kind of work is good to do with other people and what kind of work is actually really good to do alone. And teaching people that skill of starting to discern when do we actually want to gather versus when is this alone time in and of itself is a skill. I'll give an example. I was talking with a group of comedy writers, a team of comedy writers. They sort of have a weekly show. They have to, get it written, get the jokes written. And before the pandemic, they always wrote all of their jokes together. And during the pandemic, like so many workplaces, there was this sort of interstitial, liminal period where everyone stopped doing the things they used to, and they started writing jokes on their own. And then they came together in part because it was complicated to coordinate. And the quality of their jokes from the baseline were so much better. A. B, a number of the comedians who didn't necessarily have a personality of like being an extrovert in the room or, putting out their jokes first, actually ended up having much more airtime because they all looked at all of their jokes on a piece of paper first. And so part of what happened in that group is when they could pause and actually think about, in this case, creative protection time, it's an element of group intelligence, whatever your field is, to know whether it's teachers, right? Whether it's accountants, whether it's a law firm, what do you uniquely benefit from doing together? And where and how are you actually uniquely benefiting doing alone? And when you actually just start with that question, all of a sudden you stop the autopilot assumption is like everything, everywhere, all at once at the same time.
In this example of this comedy team, what norms from that, pandemic moment have been retained in this kind of pivot back to so-called, normalcy?
So in that case, the team now writes jokes on their own for the stage one.
Beautiful.
So many of these shifts are not rocket science. I'll get another example. A manager came up to me. This was in a publishing industry, and she realized that one of the dynamics in her meetings, and particularly in remote meetings, was that she felt like people weren't always telling her like the bad stuff that was happening, right? It was like they brought all of the good news, but couldn't really have a real conversation. And she called me up. She's like, "How do I shift this meeting? Like, can I redesign this meeting?" And I said, "Don't redesign the whole thing. Change the first 10%, first 5 to 10%. Have an opening exercise where you just zip around no more than 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, and everybody just say their rose and thorn of the week. That's it. And do it 10 weeks in a row." And a few months later, check back in. I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Well, we tried it. And the first few weeks, I made it a rule." She said that people could share stuff from work or not at work, but a rose and a thorn, meaning the best part of the week and the worst. And the first few weeks, there were a few people who really loved it. There were other people not totally sure, but we kept doing it. And over the course of week 3, week 4, people started taking more risks. For some people, sharing stuff from outside of work felt safer and vice versa. But people started expanding the geography of what they felt safe sharing, and they started to get to know each other better. By week 6, a different thing happened, which is the first 5% started to have an effect on the other 95% of the meeting, because they started to normalize thorns.
And make problems discussable.
Absolutely.
I love both of these examples. Every part of the story matters, but that final chapter where it profoundly changes how work gets done and the quality of work that comes out of these settings.
So many times in our meetings also, we inherit old assumptions or someone else's assumptions of what this meeting is for. With your listeners, I imagine how many of them have a meeting or maybe even run a meeting that used to be someone else's meeting, right? Like, "Oh, you take over the faculty department chair, or you take over the heart surgeon's Wednesday meeting." And I know of a executive director. She joined a nonprofit and took over and wanted to, before she joined, she happened to attend the previous executive director's final board meeting. It was kind of the shadowing period. And she looked and she was felt like an alien coming in from another planet, just kind of watching, like, what are the dynamics here? And she realized that basically the board said almost nothing, and the executive director was presenting the entire time. And she, at the end of the meeting, she went to the staff and she was like, what's going on here? And they said, "If we can give you any advice here, you want to keep that board off your back. Do not give them any information." And she was like, "That's ridiculous.
Part of my job.
Yeah, part of my job. But also, like, I need help."
Yeah.
And so she went in and she told her staff, she said, "I want you to, over the next 2 weeks, send me what you think are our biggest challenges." And she collected them, chose 3. And she reorganized her entire board meeting on those 3 challenges. And everyone was shocked. And how we spend our time at meetings are reflections of our assumptions about power, our mental models of what we are doing as a team. And she basically shifted the social contract from the board as being somebody or people to get off your back and to kind of keep at arm's length, versus a board as being your most crucial and relevant partners. But she did that through the scaffolding of a meeting, right? It's not like meetings are these like other things in life. I often joke that meetings are the Trojan horses of the conversations we've been avoiding, because they force people to say, oh my gosh, what am I going to say in front of this group? Or wow, what are we going to present? Or what should be on that deck? Or who should actually go first? And so when you get really elegant at being able to create and coordinate this group life, it's the meeting, it's the conference, it's the leadership offsite where your norms are created and where people start feeling and seeing, is this a place I want to be?
On the other side of the spectrum, in terms of stakes, is the world of improv. We recommend it to everyone. I think I have spent some time in some of the sandboxes where you've spent some time, Boston Improv and elsewhere.
That's so great.
What are some of the lessons from that world that you bring into this work?
I love so much that you are making the connection between improv and dialogue and facilitation, because to me it is the same thing. I often, whenever I coach people, coach leaders, I almost always assign them just like 7 weeks of an improv course wherever they are in the world. There's improv comedy, but there's improv kind of theater, which is basically a type of like acting exercises that theater directors came up with in the 60s and 70s and 80s when they started feeling like their ensembles, their actors were getting really stuck and really like stuck on the script, really like non-creative with each other. But it's basically a group of collective exercises that help actors get in touch with themselves and get actors to get in touch with a group. And I use these tools in almost every type of group conflict dialogue work that I do, in part because it's fun.
Yeah. It brings joy into the room.
It brings joy into the room. It brings humor into the room. People like learning a skill. So I've done this with teams. Years ago, I was working with a group of 4 partners, senior partners, who all were owners in a firm, and they just had a lot of interpersonal teaming challenges. And I had 2 days with them, and I basically for 6 hours, they wanted to talk about like get into the weeds of all of their fights and and I said, for 6 hours, we're going to do nothing but improv games. And they were very, very skeptical. And for 2 hours, I did one exercise. And what it was, it's a very simple improv exercise, which is you put people into a circle, close their eyes, and they have to do the to be or not to be. And they just close their eyes and they collectively say this line in a way that sounds like one person. And just simply doing that for 60 minutes, all of the dynamics of their relationships were revealed. He always leads in this certain way. She's always rushing me. You always think you're the one who's actually, controlling the game. I can't believe you wouldn't match my tone. You go slightly lower. You always have to do it slightly different than someone else, right? It was all there. And it was such a quick and oblique way of actually getting into their core crap. But in this way where it was kind of like, fun and interesting and gave humor, and they could start laughing at themselves, and they could actually see what they were doing because everyone else could see, like, you just did that in a German accent. Why are you we weren't using a German accent, whatever it was, but it allowed to give it this different context, which I think whether you're a manager or a leader, to like be influenced by other fields and be able to use different languages to help people see themselves is a powerful tool.
All right, we're going to get into some of your excellent advice on how to gather better at work. Let's say I'm hosting an Ask Me Anything event for my employees. In my mind, my purpose is to answer their questions. So can you elevate what I'm doing here?
We have a Art of Gathering digital course that students take together to reimagine a high-stakes gathering in their workplace or in their life. And the first unit is all about purpose. And in all of our surveys, people often say that this unit is the most powerful unit because they thought they knew what a purpose was and they didn't. So answering people's questions is not a purpose. It's an activity. And so as you are thinking about what is my purpose of an AMA, I would ask you, why are you answering their questions?
I believe in transparency in leadership, and I want them to know what's going on in the company. I'm also interested in knowing what's on their minds. So that's helpful to me.
And what do you believe, if you are able to answer their questions, what do you believe will happen? What's your hope?
That they'll go back and focus on their work and not be distracted by what other people are doing at the company, namely me.
Because you assume that they don't know, that they're distracted because they don't feel like they're connected to decision making?
No, I don't think about connection. And I'm just trying to channel a point of view. And I think this is a healthy point of tension for me in this conversation. And I'm going to try to channel my co-host wife who's not here, but I am a full-on total believer. Like I am an improv trained, like, let's make people uncomfortable. It's all good. I think she identifies on the other side of whatever that spectrum is, in not starting at the premise that this kind of disclosure or this kind of vulnerability is always a good thing in the workplace.
I wish she was here because I would say I agree with her. So what I'm not trying to get you or you fake CEO to say I want connection. Connection is just one outcome. And sometimes people are overly connected. I mean, I've worked with teams where there are no boundaries and so much of what they need to do is be less vulnerable with each other. So connection is not good in and of itself. What I was trying to do there on the AMA is getting you really clear on what the outcome is for an AMA. What is the purpose for it? So is it to build trust? Is it to increase productivity?
Well, let me tell you, let me earnestly channel this is that I wake up every day and I'm trying to find a foothold to improve the performance of this organization. And a forum like that is a chance to talk about the strategy, talk about where we're going, talk about, celebrate people in the room who may have overcome challenges that someone else in that room might have, to reward the people who are kicking ass publicly. Like, it is a chance for us to come together and reconnect with the reason that we have all joined this team, which is to go out and win.
I think that's a great purpose. Absolutely. It's a hugely important. I mean, I think leaders who do AMAs quarterly help people metabolize what's actually going on in the company, help people feel like they pretend, it depends on if it's in the Slack or what, technology you're using, help people just visually see each other's names, help people understand how a CEO is thinking about something, the language they use to describe something. It's AMAs are one of the most powerful low lift ways. They're also high risk. So the leaders I know who use AMAs really well are often have legal counsel sitting next to them and won't necessarily answer everything, but might say, I'm not currently able to answer that, but thank you for the question, right? So it's not full transparency. It's using the right levers to be able to help a large group of people feel connected to the mission. Forget connected to the CEO or not, connected to the mission, connected to their work, and helping them understand and crossing the lines and connecting the dots across the things that they can't see.
And if I am trying to actualize this and I'm going in to host my own AMA or team meeting or, wherever I am sitting in this hierarchy, what does it look? Is it a purpose that I am getting in touch with myself? Is it a purpose that I am declaring to my team? Is there some operational transparency here? Like, here's why we've come together.
I think it depends on the context and the gathering, and often if it's like for a large organization, there's usually an internal purpose and an external purpose. The internal purpose is the one that you tell your team and you try to design the meeting for, and the external purpose may match that, or it might be a different language. But a purpose, I wouldn't get bogged down in purpose. The purpose is just the first step. So once you know what the purpose is, and once you're clear on it, then to design for that outcome.
Got it. So it's an inside job. It's me getting in touch with my purpose and intention for this gathering, and then the design of the meeting and what happens next
based on that. So, and I would even maybe slightly change the language, is like you articulating your purpose. Right? It was like, what is actually the purpose of this meeting? And so when you have a really good purpose, first of all, it's specific and disputable. People can disagree with it. It helps you make decisions. So a really good purpose more often helps you know who not to invite than who to invite. A really good purpose excludes people. A really good purpose helps you understand who and where those AMAs are for and who should actually not be on that call. And so a huge part of purpose isn't actually this like mushy, heartfelt thing. Purpose crystallizes. I often joke, purpose is your bouncer, right? It helps you understand who should come in and who should come out. And one of the reasons, to go back to the beginning of our conversation, that people overmeet is because we don't know how to exclude.
Yeah, I love how you've reclaimed the word exclusion.
So much of, I think, why we waste each other's time is because when we haven't actually paused to say, who is this for? We also then aren't able to, when someone says, hey, can I come to that meeting, articulate why they can't.
And then it feels personal.
It feels personal.
Because I'm going to interpret that negatively because I'm a human being. And that's what I do. Yeah.
One of my favorite examples is from Pixar. When Steve Jobs returned to Pixar kind of triumphantly, Ed Catmull, the CEO at the time, has this story that Pixar had this like famously creative and highly engineered in-person creative meeting, like 18 creatives. And one of their deepest challenges as a company was actually, after making hit after hit after hit, it's actually very scary, right? You have Frozen 2, Frozen 3, Toy Story 24. Like, how do you kind of like get out and find like a completely new story? And that creativity, particularly among those who have had a lot of its success, can actually be a really vulnerable act, as can critique. And so they designed this 18-person creative meeting in very specific ways, to come up with new ideas, to then critique each other. Steve Jobs wanted to see this famous meeting, and Ed Catmull basically said, you can come, but then we'll have to do the meeting again. It'll just be a dog and pony show. Right? And so what he was doing was he was excluding with purpose. It wasn't personal, it was purposeful. And Steve Jobs got it. And so a huge part of basically thinking about your highest use of the highest thing you have is your people's time. One of my favorite pieces, it was like a swan song to Jeff Zucker when he left CNN, and controversial leaving, all of that. But they were one of my favorites. So interesting what people say about you publicly when you leave. And there's this piece written, I think it's by Mitra Khalida, one of his journalists, and it was a swan song for Jeff Zucker's morning meeting. And I think the title of the piece was "The Greatest Show on Earth Wasn't on CNN Programming." It was Jeff Zucker's morning meeting. He would demonstrate there that he watches, right, the last 24 hours of programming and pick out some obscure thing that really worked and state in front of the entire company. He would play people off of each other, but had enough trust so that they really felt like they could and would. He would often elevate interns and junior journalists to have their moment in the sun at those meetings. These were, he understood this is like the core metabolism of a workplace. And so be a leader where people cancel other things to be at your meetings for.
Let's talk about being chill for a second.
Okay.
So in your book, you write, chill is a miserable attitude when it comes to hosting gatherings. Chill is selfishness disguised as kindness. So these are strong words, Priya.
Them fun words.
So why are you taking chill away from us? Isn't relaxed and easygoing a way to make other people comfortable?
So out of a desire to not impose, quote unquote, on each other, out of a desire to kind of be easy and to look like you don't care, we end up very often under hosting each other. We end up having gatherings kind of about nothing. We end up spending time with other people that feels meaningless and kind of the same thing on rinse and repeat over and over again. And so part of what I am using these strong words for is to basically say that gathering is this incredible vehicle that, particularly in a diverse society where, one, everyone is busy, and two, we don't have shared ways of being, to actually think about why you're bringing people together and to have a vision and to bring them along to it is a deeply generous act. And that hosting is an act of power. Gathering is an act of power. It's not just connection and love. And that if you abdicate the role, someone else will take it. And so when you don't have a steady hand at the ship, it's not that then everyone's free to be them. That's it. It's where, it's where you get cornered at a networking event for 3 hours because you're not totally sure where to go or what to be. It doesn't mean that you have to be this controlling person yelling at everyone. It's actually pausing and thinking about, how do I have a specific gathering, and how, particularly in modern diverse life, to explain to people what it means to be successful here.
I find this very persuasive, by the way. When I first read this, I have a need to have a lot of freedom and agency at work. I have a hard time working for other people. So my reaction was, well, when I have had to work for other people, then the chill manager was the dynamic that kind of worked for me. But like, we think about leadership as taking responsibility for the performance and emotional experience of the people around you. And I feel like that's what you're saying with this point about chill, is step up to the plate on that responsibility.
I love that frame. It's taking responsibility. And I will say one thing that I got a critique on the chill point, which is originally chill comes from Black culture. And it actually meant a very different thing, which is come and be home and be present. Don't worry, you can be yourself here. And over time, like so many things, it became appropriated into white culture. And it was like, yeah, I'm chill, you're chill, like nothing to see here, folks. And so the meaning itself has been distorted. And part of what I'm inviting people to see is that when you don't actually protect, you are doing no one any favors. I went to the Kennedy School, and one of my favorite examples of this, that the Kennedy School, they have this sort of famous, infamous forum. The forum was this place where heads of state would come, and David Gergen, I don't know if he still hosts it, but for years he would host
He dated my mother, if you can believe it.
Wow. Yeah. That's actually on the
He's not my father, I should say to our listeners, he is not my father.
So listen, you never know, you're going to learn. And he would, so these heads of state would come, and it's this incredible experience because basically students and members from the community can get a ticket through a raffle, and you get to go and listen to like literally presidents and prime ministers on a stage in the room. And after they would speak, or as a panel, David Gergen would come out with a microphone, and he would always say, okay, we're going to ask questions of the community. And he's the host here, and he's being not a chill host. He's practicing what I call generous authority. And he says, we're going to go and get some questions, and I'm going to remind you, questions end in a question mark. And everyone giggles kind of nervously. And then inevitably, whether speaker 2 or community member 8, someone winds up and starts basically like giving a monologue. And David interrupts them within 30 seconds and says, excuse me, sir, questions end with a question. And the whole crowd kind of gets nervous and, sort of tittering.
It's burned in my soul. Now, I had other issue. I was working out with David. But I'll never forget that. Questions end with a question mark.
So he did two things. One is he created a norm, right? Maybe there's other places where there's dialogue, but not here, not in the forum. I'm the one with the authority right now. I have a responsibility to use your language. And when someone is actually breaking the norm, even though it seems to be mean or rude, he's protecting the group. No one else wants to sit and listen to, number 12, 5 minutes with number 12 talking about their, whatever. We could also have 5 minutes from the head of state, right? He's protecting something. And so gatherers, hosts have power. And the clearest way I would say it is when in the name of chill and the name of trying not to be kind of impose, we often get confused and we underhost and we don't protect people, we don't connect people, and we don't temporarily equalize them. And if you are going to bring people together, and this is particularly true in the workplace, anything can happen in a group, right? Groups are powerful, groups are dangerous, groups can create harm, groups can create joy, like groups are a tool. There's a reason why in countries, descending into authoritarianism, one of the first rights that are to go is the freedom to assemble. Why? Because powerful things happen when groups are connected, when people are connected to each other. So much of gathering, and by the way, we're gathering all of the time. We're gathering in our workplaces, our schools, for bat mitzvahs, for birthday parties, for funerals. This is a lens and it's a skill. And anyone can get better at it. I still make mistakes all the time. It's a lifelong practice. And I have this quiz that actually teams often use to start their meetings with as kind of an icebreaker, which is, what is your gathering superpower? And to use whatever it is, if your superpower is like you're really, really well organized, build off of that, right? If your superpower is like you love, like you have a brilliant aesthetic, build off of that. If your superpower is you're really good at, being the life of the party or being build off of that. And actually, we created a page for your listeners, priyaparker.com/TED, where we put the quiz up if you want to figure out your gathering superpower.
I love that. And if I'm listening, I'm overwhelmed. I've been sitting in meeting all day. If I want to do one thing tomorrow to make a meeting I'm hosting better, where would you tell me to start? I only have the energy for one thing.
Start with the first 10%. Start with changing how you open your meeting and ask your group a magical question. And a magical question is a question that everyone in the group, in this specific group, in your team, not everyone in the world, in the people you are in front of, and everyone would be interested in answering, and everyone would be interested in hearing each other's answers.
What's your favorite magical question right now, Priya?
For large teams and town halls, one of my favorite ones is, what's the first concert you went to and who took you? And one of the reasons I love it, and whether it's diverse teams, particularly diverse across ages, is all of a sudden you start seeing this like chat phone. It's like, wow, Tony Braxton. Oh my gosh. Michael Jackson. I didn't realize they were that old. In Sync. Wow. Oh my gosh. Me too. And again, why is this important? It gives context, but it also, when the going gets tough, as it does in every team, and like something blows up, and you're like, you know what? Let me just pick up the phone. How bad can they be? They went to a NSYNC concert.
I love it. One of our favorites is, tell us about a favorite pair of shoes.
I love that. On Instagram, we've been collecting magical questions from people. Some of my favorite recent ones are, when's the last time you blew up a balloon by yourself, and why? What was the event?
Cool.
When's the last time you used sparkle? What is the strangest thing you ever found in your pocket?
Oh, that's a great one.
If your life was turned into a movie, what would your opening credit song be? And then you can as a team, you can make a list, right? You build a Spotify list and you put together, and everyone has their opening credit songs.
Priya Parker, what's your opening credit song in the movie about your life?
In the movie about my life, let's see. I would say On Children by Sweet Honey and the Rock.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of like an intergenerational ballad that my mother sang to me, and I sing to my children now, but it's also a cappella. And what would yours be?
That's so revealing, that answer. Cardi B's I Like It Like That.
I love it. I love it.
And I'm not going to explain it. I'm not going to explain it at all.
If you ask, if we did this conversation in a year, our answers might change.
Yeah.
And so when you get really good at asking these questions, not only do you learn about people, but questions are one of the most powerful ways. When you get really good at asking a question to the team, you have a day with the 12 most important people in your company. What question should they answer together?
I love it. It's a very accessible way in. What is the question we want to answer together by the end of this meeting?
And literally draft it, right? Because then you start actually seeing that's not actually the question. There's so many assumptions within questions. And so become really good question asker is a powerful skill.
Priya, for anyone listening who wants to learn more about your work, which I suspect we could round off to everyone, what is the best way to learn more?
Thank you so much. What a generous question. The best way is to go to priyaparker.com/TED, and we've put together a page for your listeners. On there, we have a guide for how to host a better Zoom and hybrid meetings. We put the quiz to find out your gathering superpower. And then I have an Art of Gathering digital course that people are taking within their teams, taking as cohorts, taking as individuals. If you are running a leadership retreat, or if you've been voluntold to run your leadership retreat.
We've all been there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 6-week virtual self-run course to basically take an actual gathering you've been tasked with as high stakes and work through the 6 lessons to come out on the other side of having a real robust, sharp thesis of what this gathering should be.
Thank you so much for your time and insight and wisdom today. It's been super energizing to go deep on these questions with you.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so glad we learned about your mother's dating life.
A really important reason we started this show. And we haven't really been able to get there in any other conversations.
I do what I can.
Yeah, this is a big win. This is a big win for me.